Now, life is not always rosy when you are famous. Now, former EastEnders actor Joe Swash opened up about his financial struggles, admitting he was totally to blame for his problems. In the past, he said that he was declared bankrupt twice and said he was foolish when it came to his money. First day I get paid, everything has to go out or else I'm brutal. But I know I'm brutal with money. Paula, how are you?
I'm the same. Everything has to... Well, I'm not brutal with money, but I'm so careful because, like, when you have a mortgage and you've got crash fees and that have to be taken into consideration and like that, as soon as I get paid, all my outgoings are put into a separate account. Not much left, but what can you do? But,
yeah,
you know,
but at least you've sense to do that now.
Have to.
Would you have been terrible before that?
Awful.
Before you had these sort of...
I was so flahool with money before I settled down. I mean, and why wouldn't I be? You know, I'm looking back going, yeah, I'm glad I was. I enjoyed my money and I spent it and it burnt a hole in my pocket if it was there at all. And it was brilliant. And adjusting to life as an adult has been the hardest lesson I think I've ever learned, because you can't just... You know, even when you get a wedding invitation in the post, you're like, right, that's something I have to now factor into, you know, because...
Even if it's in 6 months' time, you have to save
absolutely,
for it.
because...
Whereas before, sure, that'd be grand.
Brilliant, another weekend to go on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it definitely makes you think, and I learned the hard way. I mean, there were some lean months, I can tell you.
Yeah. Literally lean.
Yeah, until I learned how to, you know, factor in my bills, which is boring, but...
Had to be done. You have a baba now.
Oh, God, I know. He's expensive. I didn't think they'd be that expensive.
Babies take them. Yeah. Libby.
I'm dreadful with money, and thank God my husband's really good at it, and he's always like, would you not just focus and do, like, do you not know that this is coming out on this day of the month? And he does the mortgage and he does all kind of the big ones, thank God, but like I do the VHI and I do all the smaller ones, but I'm really careless with money. Like, I don't think about it. I've never really had to be too... Like, thank God for my business, I have him helping me and I've got a good accountant and stuff, but it's very easy to be, if you're not that way inclined, like I'm dreadful with accounts, and I'm terrible with money. I just don't really think about it too much.
And I think you need to... I don't understand it. With accounts, I don't
care,
yeah.
but I think...
It's not interesting.
It's just not interesting. I don't have many other important things to be thinking of. Like, I just don't really see the relevance. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
I just wish I could have someone just give me an allowance every day, because I'm just... absolutely and utterly shocking. Absolutely utterly shocking. Not as bad as you, though, Andrea.
I'm famously bad at... I mean, there was one stage I was being called onto TV programmes and radio programmes to talk about debt, because I was like the poster girl for debt, which, you know, wasn't exactly a great claim to fame, but because also when you're single as well, you've only one income, so that's my first defence, Your Honour, but also, and I'm freelance, and that can be difficult. But yeah, I mean, in 2008, I was in court twice for the repossession of my house, which thankfully I saved. And in fact, my mortgage ends next year, which is amazing.
Yay!
Like yeah.
Don't remortgage it. Don't be tempted, for the love of God.
But I had what I like to call a broke decade, which, you know, was definitely even a bit more than a decade. But I was so kind of broke, like when I was nearly losing my house, there were things that I couldn't afford to pay, and tax was one of them. And because the tax man wasn't kind of coming after me, so when
was
you
that
know
with the recession when that hit?
Yeah, it was around 2009. You know, and there was a situation where, you know, my electricity and gas were being cut off and all sorts of things like that. I was in MABS, you know, the
Money and Advice Bureau.
Yeah, and they were brilliant. But it ended up that the one thing I didn't pay was tax for a few years, which eventually obviously caught up with me. And
no tax at all?
No.
And you were freelance all of those years?
Yeah,
okay.
Because the first year I owed 1 year's tax. Then the second year I owed now 2 years' tax. And I was going, you know, and you're always hoping something will break and that, you know, jobs are promised and, you know, things are promised when you're freelance, and they make... Now, I'm not blaming other people either, because it was entirely my own fault. You know, the only person responsible for my tax was me, but I didn't pay it for a few years. I buried my head, like Joe Swash says, he did the very same. He buried his head in the sand, and I did that, where I thought about it every day and I worried about it every day, and I'm not a person who worries, but it was always hanging over me. And eventually, anyway, the piper came and had to...
Did they actually contact you?
Yeah, they did, yeah. They were
After how many years?
9.
9.
Yeah.
You were actually sticking your head in the sand for 9 years.
Yeah, because by then I knew I owed a fortune. I didn't know how to pay it. So I went to them, and do you know what? Going to them, dealing with it was the best thing that I could have done, because they were fantastic. Now, people, you know, often have or claim to have bad experience with revenue, but I would say that they were so good and decent to me. And, you know, the people who were dealing with my mortgage arrears were very difficult, you know, and they used to come to my door. I'd open my door and they'd be at the door when my neighbours were going out to work, and they'd be saying, we're going to repossess your house, and all my neighbours were listening. So it was a very aggressive situation. But Revenue were not. They were very, very nice people to deal with. And they had a job to do. It wasn't, you know, that they
needed to recoup the money.
Yeah, they did. And, you know, and there were huge penalties. Like, if you don't pay if you don't pay anything, the penalty on that is 100%. So what you owe automatically doubles, you know. So, you know, it was a lot of money. But, you know, we went through it all. It took about a year to sort it all out. And now I'm paying back from last week. My first payment was made, and they have come to a phased payment arrangement with me. So for the next 5 years, I will have to pay the exact same amount as my mortgage so I'll have 2 mortgages now for the next 5 years. Well, not really, because my actual mortgage will end next year. For the next 14
But they're
years.
open to helping people out, because a lot of people are stuck in that rut, and it's, my God, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I'll just ignore it.
Yeah.
I'll just ignore it. It might go away.
This is the biggest piece of advice. Do not be me. Go and deal with it, because they are absolutely lovely to deal with and helpful. They want to help you sort it out, you know. And the relief that I have now, that I don't have to, every letter, I used to panic when a letter came in the door, and phone calls and all of that. And really, had I known it was that easy to sort out, you know, it is complicated, and it is, you know, it's embarrassing, because I'm an intelligent woman, and this year I'll be named on the tax defaulters list, you know, this summer. And, you know, I kind of go, what were you thinking? What were you doing? Why didn't you deal with it? But I didn't. I ran away from it because
it's daunting.
To me, it was
scary.
It was insurmountable, and it wasn't at all. And now, yes, it's a bit painful. I have to, but they were, you know, they were kind in dealing with me, and that made a huge difference. And they were understanding, and they had a job to be done, and it got done. And now,
because this is feeling, oh my God, if you owe tax, the taxman's going to take your house, going to take your car, going to sell everything belonging to you. That's.
I think the stress. I would keel over from the stress alone.
Well, they said to me, look, you know, because I was saying, do you want to take my house? You know, you can have my house. And they said, look, we're not in the business of taking people out of their houses, you know, but we will work on this. And they worked on it with me. And, you know, as I said, it was a very, you know, I think it was a fair conclusion that they came to in the end. And, you know, it is, as it is going to be a lot. It's exact same amount as my mortgage now every month. And from this month, so it's going to be difficult. I have to probably try and get another little gig going to pay for that. But, you know, I feel much lighter, and I used to,
dread must be gone from the back of your mind.
I used to say, you know, I never worry about anything, and truthfully, I don't worry about anything. But for the last few years, I have been worrying that this was going, you know, and you know, you read people go to jail over tax, and you know, there's all sorts of things that, and every now and again, you can't even let your mind go there, because you're going, oh my God. And when this first happened, I thought, that's it. You know, I could see myself in the Doka Centre, you know, and you know, I was like, that's it. I'm going to prison now.
I can't see you in the Doka Centre, to be honest. It'd be a colourful addition, if nothing else.
Yeah, but you know, it has absolutely worked out really well, and now I'm like, at this particular minute in time, I'm completely tax compliant, which is like,